It was a normal day at work for you. You walk down the dingy street leading to a seemingly abandoned warehouse in the middle of Carmilla Carmine's overlord territory. The graffiti on the buildings indicating that this was gang territory. Specifically, the coppers. In life, the coppers had all been corrupted police officers. In hell, they utilized their decades of police work and knowledge of crime families to make more openly dirty deeds, becoming a feared group that purposefully stayed relatively low, surprisingly, to not attract the attention of stronger adversaries. However, sometimes even they made mistakes. Sometimes even they pissed off the wrong person. With an emotionless expression, you nonchalantly walked into a warehouse. A guard attempting to stop you.
Hey, little lady. Strippers haven't been called today. It's a meeting of the bigwigs. Didn't you get the memo?
Stripper. You were dressed in a tight red cocktail dress, with a little bit of glitter decorating it. Red high heels, and a white brim red sun hat, with a single red feather and a skull ornament on top of it. Rosie had given you these clothes. You actually quite liked them. She called you Mini-Me sometimes when you wore them. The insult didn't bother you, however, and you still tried walking past the demon as he was not your target. Confused, he raised a hand.
Hey!
However, the moment he laid a hand on you to throw you out, his body shook. And he lowered his head with a shocked expression. First, staring at his hands, his fingers were twitching. And as you round the corner into the main hall of the warehouse, you heard his revolver go off, followed by the noise of a heavy body falling to the ground. The gunshot was loud enough to awaken the entire building. Whatever was happening here instantly had been postponed. An alarm siren rung, and everyone went into cover, weapons in hand. You stopped right in the middle of the large hall of the warehouse, unopposed. Right now you were the center of attention, as tens of red laser dots that were lighting up your body were a little shaking as they tried to get a hit on you.
What the fuck are you?
Blurted one of them. How did you get past Mitchell? Shouted another. They were weary, unsure of what just entered the building.
Say something!
Jack, I don't think she can. Look, her mouth, Jack, she can't.
It's stitched shut?
The eyes of the demon's presence all widened in horror. And then the demon named Jack turned his own weapon on himself. It happened so quickly and without any hesitation. Panic ensued. One by one, the fleeing gang members, as they tried to leave the building, ended up the same way as poor Jack and Mitchell. It was a bloodbath, akin to a horror movie. The only survivors being 3 guys who silently just sat in a corner, shivering, not making a single sound. And once the noises ceased, it still wasn't over. Without as much as a blink, you coldly walked towards the back of the warehouse where the building's meeting room was located. The door was locked, obviously, but you just pushed it open with one hand, as if it was made out of paper. You stepped into the meeting room. 7 demons turning towards you. They were the copper's upper echelon. All had been sitting in their chairs with horrified and tensed-up expressions. One of them gulped loudly, which ended in him immediately grabbing his pencil and repeatedly jamming it into his right eye socket until he went limp, his head falling on the table with a loud thud. After that, no one dared to make a sound. Like death itself, you then walked over to an empty chair at the table, sitting down expectantly, folding your hands neatly, your expression never changing, except for where you were looking. Your eyes meeting the shaking, frightened orbs of a demon only going by the name of Sergeant Price, the copper's number 1. Am I allowed to speak? You didn't visibly react. You watched tears running down his face. He was so scared. But the lack of anything happening to him seemed to be a quiet permission to do so. What is this about? We could talk about this. You didn't move. He knew what he did wrong deep down. And when he realized it, Price gulped. Is about the weapons, right? I told Carmilla, Brad, I have it. It's in the dead drop. The silence that followed was deafening. It wasn't in the dead drop, wasn't it? You didn't even blink. Who of you didn't put the fucking money into the dead drop? Even though he was questioning his companions, they knew not to speak. After all, you haven't given them permission yet. Look. We have it, I swear. You lowered your gaze. You had heard enough. You stared at your hands, causing him immediately to go quiet. With your right hand, you then tapped the table 3 times. Do you want the He didn't get to finish the sentence, as his entire body exploded into a fine red mist that filled the entire room. It was Sergeant Price's second-in-command, meanwhile, who was the only one who understood what was happening here. Without opening his mouth, he went, as quiet as a church mouse, to the safe in the back of the meeting room, took out every little piece of paper, every bundle, every little paper roll of pennies, everything. He placed the money on the table in front of you. It was quite a stack, at least 1 million, making absolutely sure you didn't even feel a brush of air as he did so. He then walked up to every present member at the meeting, putting his hands in their pockets to take out their wallets. More money was added to the pile. And once every cent had been collected, he walked over to his chair and sat back down, shaking. He was completely out of breath, close to passing out. Damn it, why was his heart racing now? Slowly, you raised your gaze, staring at the money, not moving an inch for 5 minutes.
You think she's count?
Another demon turned into fine mist without warning. But he was right. You were counting. Your head tilted very slightly. It was more than you were meant to collect. You raised your right arm, snapping your fingers, making everyone in the room shudder. The money engulfed in green teleportation flames, leaving only a few pennies and a single stack of bills. That was the money that had been too much. You then slowly raised your head, looking at every demon left alive in the room, giving each and everyone a gentle nod and a forced smile. Before you left. It wasn't until they heard the noise of the metal door outside slam loudly shut that they dared to speak again. Your name was Meat, the Red Mist Demon. You were an unique demon overlord. Unique meaning that up to this day only you had been given this title and powers. Similar to Alastor being the unique radio demon. You had been given an ability that was beyond cracked. The power to override people's personalities, instilling in them the very deep and dark desire of self-deletion. It was so strong that they would immediately go for the quickest way out. You could crank up this desire to the point where the demons' own bodies would reject their own existence, imploding them into the same mist that was your title. Of course, they could always regenerate, but the desire was still there. It lingered. Usually these demons didn't survive the next extermination. The ability had one weakness, however, and that was that you could only use it on demons you felt were beneath you. It was the Overlord Zestiel who had been the first Overlord to notice you. A tiny creature covered in red liquid, lying on the ground, crying, multiple red puddles around her. She wore dirty brown rags. And he had felt a sympathy he had thought he had eliminated over his decades in hell. And he took you in. It was exceedingly rare a child appeared in hell and grew up here. A requirement for sin so terrible even the innocent soul of a kid was corrupted. Considering what your power was, more than likely it was related to your ultimate fate. In a way, you didn't talk. And so, you became an adult down here, having spent more time down in hell than on Earth. You had grown up to be as attractive as you were terrifying. A tall, thin woman with hip-long white hair and ghostly white skin that was just a little bit sparkly in the right light. Your eyes were completely black, similar to those of cannibals, but your teeth weren't sharp, nor did you particularly enjoy human meat, especially since your lips had been stitched shut at their corners, allowing only narrow straws past them. You didn't talk, for obvious reasons. For obvious reasons, you didn't talk, but that didn't mean you couldn't verbalize. The demon overlord Rosie had been the only one so far who had been graced with the knowledge of what your haunting voice sounded like, as by using a knife or a scalpel, the strings holding your mouth together could be cut, which would cause your demonic transformation, turning your body into the gestalt of a horrifying monstrosity, just as beautiful as it was the worst thing she had ever seen. It was only thanks to you seeing Rosie as someone above you that she had survived that day. No one else did. Though she did describe your singing, as she called it, as the most beautiful melody she had ever heard, leaving many afraid as well as curious. Zestiel, knowing of your strength, knew from the beginning how to deal with you. And so it had become an unwritten rule and rite of passage for every overlord of the circle to sign a soul contract with you. Not that their soul belonged to you. No, no, no. But that your soul belonged to them. All of them. From the radio demon Alastor down to the V's, everyone owned your soul. This way, every overlord was automatically above you, and therefore safe from your terrifying power. Additionally, every overlord employed their own little domination technique. For instance, Zestial treated you like a very possessive father, while Rosie like an unruly child. You even had your own territory. It was just a singular housing block, simply called the Area with No Name. It was known as moist, dreary, and dark, while also only having 2 residents. You and your landlord, a blood demon going by the name of Owen. You stepped, of course, unopposed into the lavish mansion of Carmilla Carmine, at the center of her territory. Any workers present immediately averting their gaze, while continuing their conversations only in whispers. On your way here, about 10 more demons met an unfortunate end. They just were at the wrong place at the wrong time, with the wrong personalities. You walked up the stairs, turning right towards Carmilla's study, where she usually could be found. There you knocked at the door, waiting 3 seconds before entering. Inside, in front of a lit fireplace, stood Carmilla. She was talking to her daughter Odette, the girl immediately averting her gaze from you. "Meet, sweetie, how pleasant," said Carmilla as she looked at you with an almost unnoticeable smile. Looking at the table next to her, where her money had been teleported to. "Very much on target, only a single cent fell, as per usual." Odette, meanwhile, excused herself, placing her right hand against her cheek to fully avoid seeing you at all, as she walked past you. Your gaze followed her, unblinking. A terrified bead of sweat ran down the Overlord's brow as she chuckled. "Meet, sweetie, you know, not my daughters." You blinked, closing the door, before stepping forward. Carmilla changed her entire personality just for you. It was a difficult act. Still, she forced a smile and spoke up. "I'm glad I sent you out on that errand, sweetie. Come here." She spread her arms. Stepping before her, you allowed Carmilla to embrace you. Your face pressed into her soft, big chest. She felt warm and soft. You closed your eyes, even though hers were wide open, as she was terrified. Around you, every moment and decision needed to be absolutely perfect, absolutely calculated. Focus. Not for a moment you were to doubt her superiority over you, or else you'd end up like the people she had sent you to go after. It was also the reason you had been given such a degrading name. Originally you had been called Elizabeth, before becoming nothing but meat. Carmilla exhaled through her mouth quietly, her hands rubbing over your back. "Look at me, sweetie." You leaned back a little, Carmilla placing her hands on your cheeks, taking hold of your head. "I don't like it when you look at my daughters like that. Okay?" Of course you didn't respond. Not even a single twitch in your expression. Carmilla forced another smile. "You're only supposed to have eyes for me." "And the other overlords," she thought. Sighing mentally, she kissed you. On the lips. Gently, yet dominant. She could feel your heartbeat increase. One of her hands moved down to your ass, tightly gripping it, squeezing you. But then her lips released from you, causing you to exhale through the small opening of your mouth. Take a shower and wait for me, sweetie, she said. You reek of death and blood. You know I don't like that. You nodded, turning around before leaving the study. Once you closed the door behind yourself, Carmilla dramatically sighed, sitting down for a moment with a sad expression. She did this for her daughters. She did this for her daughters. She did this for her daughters. Zestia, what the hell did you bring into our house? Meanwhile, you stepped into the shower of Carmilla's bedroom at the other end of the mansion, taking off your bloody dress and allowing hot water to run down your naked body. Though, just as the shampoo had left your hair, a hand suddenly shot out of your right eye, and then an arm, taking you completely by surprise. The arm turned off the water, leaving you cold and shivering. As the demon slowly emerged from your face, gripping the corners of the tub to pull himself out, before gracefully landing on the ground. Swiping over his coat, Alastor stood in the middle of the bathroom. His way of dominating you was to take away your privacy by occasionally living in your eye. Apparently he could pop in and out at any time, and as such, you never knew when he was inside you, violating you. Alastor wanted to outdo all the other overlords in dominating you, not because he liked you or anything, no, but because he saw you as a tool for total control. You were his favorite pawn, his favorite possession, and he hated sharing it. And as such, he needed to make sure you were more than just loyal to him. He wanted you to be his slave. And so the cunning radio demon needed a way to always be at your side when possible. What an interesting way of controlling your meat, my darling. He looked at the door leading to Carmilla's bedroom, while you stared at Alastor, as if you were still dressed. Oh, don't mind me, dear. I was just recording your beautiful display of violence earlier for my new Christmas album, Bloody Winter Wonderland. I hope you don't mind. I want to add these explosions as sound effects. You didn't respond. Glad to hear that, darling. He then chuckled. He grabbed your chin tightly, so much more aggressive than Carmilla. So, little question, my dear. Meat. Does it actually work? Do you like being controlled like this? Your only reaction was a blink after some water rolled into your left eye. Oh, that much? Should I try to? He mused as he came closer. Alastor hated close body contact. The exchange of fluids, the feeling of sweaty bodies, it all made him gag. It was so uncouth, so undignified, disgusting. But if it meant you saw him as the one true overlord, so be it. He had lived in hell long enough. Just 5, maybe 10 minutes of discomfort were nothing to him. Grabbing your face harshly, he forced you to look up at him. Darling, I want you to do something for me. If I'm forced to watch you fornicate with her, I'm going to vomit. As such, I will soon leave you with her, but before I go, I just want to remind you who the number one really is. You were used to this treatment, being thrown from overlord to overlord, like the piece of meat that you were. It was now Alastor who forced his mouth on yours, his teeth slamming onto your lips harshly as if he wanted to rip them apart, drawing blood. His tongue pushing past the small opening of your mouth, the strings and the stitches digging into your flesh painfully as your mouth was opened wider than it should, causing tears to come out of your eyes. Meanwhile, Alastor's tongue tasted absolutely delicious as it mixed with the blood of your lips. It tasted like raw meat and wine. It was delicious. You wanted more. The man knew how to live. You could feel your body becoming weak as his tongue moved past your own, down into your throat. It was definitely longer than Carmilla's. More like a large, slimy tentacle or slug than anything else. You gagged, but he didn't let go. His grip only becoming tighter on your cheeks until a thin film of blood ran down your skin. And finally, he pulled out of you. Hissing, he spoke. I'll be waiting for you in your apartment, meat. When you're done with her, I mean. You'll be my toy just like you're hers. Hope you're ready. You gulped down what was left of his spittle as he laughed loudly, teleporting away only seconds later. He looked at your feet, unsure of what to feel, if anything, really, before turning the water back on. You washed yourself, watching your own blood go down the drain until the damage caused by Alastor had regenerated. Upon drying yourself, you returned into Carmilla's bedroom. The demoness was already lying on her bed. Her hair hanging down, she sat there, lavishly, dressed in nothing but lingerie, grinning at you. What took you so long, sweetie? She mused. Come here. Let Mommy take care of you. Blinking, you stepped next to her bed, causing her to grab you tightly, pulling you into an embrace, kissing your shoulders, your neck, your cheeks, your mouth. You blushed, a sign that whatever she was doing worked. You keep doing a good job for me, okay, sweetie? You're such a good girl. Yes, you are. Hey, thank you for watching my video until the very end. But before I say goodbye, I would like to shout out all of my lovely channel members. Hella, BitBit, Melofia, Anonymous Weep, Sleepy Town, Angel, Zachary, Nicodemus D, Ash Wisdom, Ikea, The Tribute, and AJ Anime Girl for being wonderful Tier 2 and Tier 3 channel members. And of course, a big thank you goes out to my Tier 1 channel members. You're wonderful, wonderful little mates.